my winter soup series where each month of the winter I have been showing you how to make some of my favorite soups. In December, we made roasted red pepper and Gouda soup, so go back and watch that video if you haven't. In January, I made a beautiful creamy mushroom bisque, got tomato on the brain. And now in February, I'm going to make the classic French onion soup, which of course is also one of my very favorites. This is really a very simple soup to make, a little time consuming because of the caramelization of the onions that we're going to be doing, but it turns out so beautiful, and just the broth is rich and delicious, those beautifully melted down onions, but then you do the toasted baguette and the melted cheese on top. I'm going to show you how to do all of that today. It's going to be delightful. So I have already chopped here 5 large sweet onions. And I'm going to show you how to cut the last onion here before we add them to our pot to start caramelizing. These onions for this soup, we want to do in like these half ring sort of shapes. So not a dice, not a mince, these are what we're looking for. So my onion here, like I've told you in other videos, we've got our 2 ends, our little furry bottom here and then the top. I'm going to cut the top off of the onion. And then, like I've shown you before, I've got my furry bottom here. I'm going to cut this right down the middle, keeping the stem intact. I'm going to peel off that first layer here with the skin and kind of that first little layer that we don't want. Do this on both. I love French onion soup. I think it is so delicious. I order it almost everywhere that I go out. If I'm ordering soup, it's going to be French onion. It's just one of my favorites. The cheesiness, the broth, I love it all. So to make those half rings, we're lucky, an onion already has rings. So you're just going to thinly slice this onion all the way down to the root. You put onto that little root too, actually. That's kind of nice. And see how we have these beautiful little ring shapes here. Put those into the bowl. This goes by fast doing this, especially holding on to that little stem. So you just run a sharp knife through it. I've also found that, onions make people cry, tear up with the gases that come off of the onions. Using a very, very sharp knife does help with that. It doesn't break those cells so much that release the gases that will make you tear up. So the sharper your knife, the better off you're going to be. Okay, step 1, we've got our onions here. Meet me over at the stove and I'm going to show you how we're going to caramelize these. Be back in just a minute. Hi everybody, we're over at the stove now. I've got my big pot here on a kind of a medium-high heat. Just dropped 3 tablespoons of butter in. We're gonna get that melting a little bit. And I'm gonna go ahead and just start adding all of these onions to this pot. To make onions sweet, which is what we want for this recipe, we're gonna caramelize these. And that is a process. This can take 30 minutes up to all day on a really, well, not all day. You could do this for hours on a stovetop on a lower heat if you would like to. The longer these onions cook, but you don't want to burn them, so be careful about that, the sweeter they're going to get. They will release all of their beautiful sugars that are in these onions. Yes, onions have some sugar in them. So we just want to coat these with that butter that we put into this pan. We're going to let these go, checking on them every couple of minutes just to give them a toss. But really, this needs to be on the heat with the butter for a good 30 minutes to cook everything down. So I'm going to pop the lid on. We'll come back and check them in a little bit. Then we'll get going with the rest of the recipe. See you soon, buddy. We are back. I just wanted to bring you guys along with me while we checked on our onions that we're caramelizing here. As you can tell, these have gotten a little color on them. They are bit more golden and soft than they were before. It's been about 20-25 minutes, I would say. These are probably honestly going to take at least another 20-25. I know I said 30 minutes total at the beginning, but I'm going to want a lot more color on these, a lot more of that dark golden color that is coming through. That's going to bring that sweetness out in them and kind of just that melt in your mouth sort of onion that you want. So we're going to let these go a little bit longer. When they're done, honestly, this pot is going to look like jammy almost. It's going to be kind of thick and golden and look like onion jam, which is something you can make and should because it's delicious. So join me back in about another 25-30 minutes or so. We'll see where we're at, and then we will continue on with the recipe. Thank you. Hi everybody, we're back. As you can see, our onions are fully caramelized by this point. Look at how golden, beautiful those are. So we are ready to add the rest of our ingredients now. I'm going to add 6 tablespoons of an all-purpose flour. This is our thickening agent. This is going to make it so our soup is not watery at the end, which we do not want. We want a nice, even though it's a brothy soup, you still want it to have, like, you know, a little bit of body to it, a little bit of a creaminess in your mouth. So we're going to add that flour and cook that down. That looks nice. Next, we're going to add our garlic here. I've got 4 cloves of garlic minced. I'm going to add that in. Give that a little bit of a stir. Like I talked about in my other videos, you never want to add your garlic too early. Garlic burns very, very easily, and we don't want our garlic to burn. It gets very bitter when it's burnt. You know, you can't take that away once you've added it. If it burns, you have to start all over. So it's best just to do it correctly, add it at the end. Here I've got beautiful 6 cups of beef broth that I'm going to add. I'm going to ladle some of this in until it is not so full, and then I'll just pour the rest in. That's good. I think I can pour the rest in at this point. Yes, that's very nice. Give this a nice stir. Now it's starting to look more like soup, isn't it? At this point, I'm going to add our dried thyme, 1 bay leaf, 1 dried bay leaf, and a teaspoon of Worcestershire. This is great to add to a lot of soups. Gives it a good salty kind of briny flavor, good depth of flavor in any kind of broth-based soup. We're gonna let this go. Let's see, I'm gonna simmer this for another 15 minutes or so just to get everything combined. And then I'm going to taste it for salt and pepper, see maybe what it needs. I didn't add any in the beginning because of the broth. The Worcestershire has a lot of salt in it, so I don't want to over salt anything. So we're just gonna let this go on a light simmer. 15 minutes, meet me back here and we'll go on to part 2. Hi everybody, we are back. We've got our soup simmering away on the stove, our French onion, and now I'm going to talk to you about the bread that goes into the French onion soup, because you know classically you layer your beautiful broth down on the bottom, and then you take a baguette, a toasted baguette on top, and then we're gonna broil some cheese. So what you're gonna wanna do for the baguette portion of this is get a nice crusty baguette. Really any kind of bread will do, but you want a hard bread that can really stand up to the soup and isn't just gonna melt away. So I'm gonna cut some, I don't know, about 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch rounds here of just a nice French baguette. This is a great addition to the soup because it really makes it like a meal. We're gonna put these little pieces on our baking tray here that is lined with parchment. I've preheated my oven to 350 degrees. All I'm gonna do, I'm not gonna put anything on these. I don't need to. There's plenty of flavor in the broth that we don't need any butter or salt, pepper, oil on these at all. I just wanna get them toasted. So I'm gonna put these in my oven on 350, watch them for maybe 8 minutes or so. I'll flip them once just to make sure they're toasty, still a little soft in the center. We'll pull those out and then we're gonna put the whole thing together and plate it. Be right back. Hi everyone, we're back. I have put some of my beautiful French onion soup into an oven-safe dish here. It is very important at this point that your dish is oven-safe because we are gonna put this under a broiler. We don't want anything to crack, fall apart. Make sure that you have a oven-safe crock to do this part. I have my toasted baguettes here. As you can hear, they're pretty toasty. And what I'm gonna do now is just put 3 of these in, sit them right on top of the soup. They're little, so I can fit 3. Now, where cheese is concerned, you can put almost anything that you like on top of this. People use Asiago, Parmesan, Swiss is a very popular one. I love provolone, so I'm using provolone. As much as you like, you just layer it on top. Make sure you have a couple little pieces over the edges here because you get that beautiful bubble effect on the edge. This is about 1.5 or 2 slices of deli sliced provolone. I'm gonna put this on a baking sheet that is lined with parchment. I'm gonna throw this under the broiler and we will be right back and you will see the final product. Okay, you guys, here is the final product. We put our beautiful soup with our croutons, our baguettes here in the center, under the broiler with some delicious provolone cheese. You guys, come on, look at this. If this doesn't say cold weather soup, I don't know what does. Beautiful bread, this luscious, luscious onion broth, creamy cheese on top. Let's see how it tastes. It's so good. It's so good. This is a whole meal. You've got your bread in here, your broth, your soup, some cheese on top. You don't need anything else with this. Oh, I really hope you tried this recipe. This is delightful. And remember that in January and February, we have spice kits available at the Lane Library. February, which is this month, we have German Sauerbraten kits where you can pick up all of the herbs and spices needed to make German Sauerbraten, a list of what you will need to provide, as well as the recipe and a brief history of the dish. I'm gonna have to let you guys go now. I need to eat some soup. Thank you for coming to Soups On. I've had a great time with you guys. I hope you've learned a lot and I hope you enjoy your winter soup making. Bye.